it's not possible for individual entities to have that kind of sunk costs, R&D costs involved in sustainability goals. And therefore, it is often the case that a large part of the industry, many industry participants would together take up the sustainability agenda. And that's where the question of agreements come in. So these are competitors who are coming together for a, that way a benevolent purpose of, following the sustainability goals for the environmental factors. But the question is, if competitors are coming together, where should they draw the line? And that's the big question that comes up for discussion. And that's where, as others also mentioned, Anurag mentioned, that there are other jurisdictions who have come up with some sort of guidelines of differentiating these benevolent and bona fide agreements between competitors towards sustainability goals from other agreements which can have harmful effects. And in that context, generally speaking, even our law, our Competition Act has enough flexibility. During the COVID times, we did see CCI coming up with a press release. At that point of time, there were questions of whether crisis cartels between medicine suppliers could be exempted from competition law, and that was a question floating across the globe. And a lot of jurisdictions came out with guidelines at that point, and the CCI itself came up with guidance that there is enough flexibility in the framework of the Competition Act as it stands today that it can allow certain pro-competitive measures which are to be gained out of this kind of cooperation amongst competitors. So therefore, in the case of in case of COVID, at that point there was requirement that different pharmaceutical companies coordinate with each other on transportation and logistics so that medicines could reach hospitals quickly, and therefore there was cooperation between them. And CCI said that what we as practitioners typically call the 19-3 factors under the Competition Act, where CCI looks at 6 factors, certain pro-competitive and certain anti-competitive factors to adjudge whether an agreement is anti-competitive or not. And those kind of cases will have enough pro-competitive factors, and therefore such kind of agreements will be allowed. Similarly, in the sustainability context, for achieving environmental goals. So for example, in an industry, if the industry comes together and says that from tomorrow we will not use single-use plastic as a industry, if that kind of agreement is being entered in, amongst the players of the industry, such kind of agreements are likely to have overwhelming pro-competitive effects that are likely to, outweigh any anti-competitive effects which you could see from such kind of agreement. So long as, of course, those discussions don't bleed into other areas such as discussions on prices, discussions on quantity, discussions on limiting innovation, those aspects. So broadly, from the agreement perspective, I would say that's the context in which competition law has an interface with agreements amongst competitors for achieving sustainability goals.
So I understood that the agreement related to public health, emergency, and all mainly have a pro-competitive element, so that they can be exempted. So is that only limited to those agreements, or like with reference to other sectors also, the sustainability is taken into consideration, whether they can fall outside the competition law ambit?
So if I may take that, say for example, see in India obviously the discussion is at a very initial stage at the moment, but if you look at the green guidelines that have come up in Japan, they have looked at, so they say every case has to be examined on its own merits. So it will depend on how wide the impact is, what is the anti-competitive effect, what is the collective environmental benefit, and then what if at all there is any pro-competitive effect. So they have basically, I just have a small list. So they have, so that like he mentioned, Pranjal mentioned, that where you set voluntary standards in the industry, like he said about packaging, those generally they feel those should not, their anti-competitive effect should not be huge, and the sustainability benefits are large. So generally they feel that that will pass the test. But say, for example, if there is joint logistics, right? For example, supposing two major manufacturers think that their supply chains, they can use each other's logistics to better use that so that they don't have idle capacity or something like that. And that is why there is an environmental benefit. But then that probably can cause, if there are two dominant players who collaborate like that with regard to their logistics, that maybe, everything will depend on case to case, but maybe that there the environmental benefit cannot outweigh the anti-competitive effect it will have, because it will just give those two major players a huge advantage over all other small players in the market. So you have to examine things on a case-to-case basis. R&D again same. When you integrate R&D, the cost will go down, the environmental impact will go down, and the chances of successful R&D will also increase probably. But to the participants, it might give an advantage over the competitors who are not there. So you'll have to examine each instance on a case-to-case basis. What are the sustainability benefits? What are the anti-competitive effects, and what are the pro-competitive effects? So that is how I think every case will need to be examined.
Why I ask this question? Because in the aviation sector, for traveling especially, so there is a concept called code sharing. So when an aircraft goes from Delhi to say Visakhapatnam, from there that the aircraft doesn't go forward. For example, there may be another service of another airline from Vizag to Kolkata. So whether both the airlines, say like Indigo drops someone from Delhi to Vizag, from there Air India drops from Vizag to Kolkata. But Indigo doesn't have a direct flight to Kolkata. So whether Indigo and Air India can come together for code sharing for their own sustainability, so that the number of passengers, even there is no direct flight, so they have at least a code sharing that they can get down at Vizag and can take another flight, which is arranged by the Indigo itself. So Indigo and Air India has an understanding, because they have to sustain in the market. If they have to see their own passengers individually, that might not take place. Because I don't know that there is such understanding. Whether this understanding of code sharing is, if anything, can be exempted in the name of sustainability, or can we see this is a code sharing that they are sharing the market?
See, I think it will have to be examined. See, these kind of arrangements are already there between airlines. See, there are two airlines, when they are not full, you've seen many international flights, they make it into a single flight. So that happens all the time. There are alliances between airlines which have also passed the test of competition law, whereby they have alliances, they have preferred partners in the domestic sector. So see, it will have to be examined. Again, I say you'll have to see what adverse effect, because see, competition law per se doesn't bar any kind of agreement. See, you have to see what the effect on competition is. The only thing that the sustainability discussion, in my opinion, does is that it brings another factor that the competition commission or the competition authority has to take into account while assessing the adverse effect on competition or the pro-competitive effect of any activity. And how much weightage should that sustainability thing should get is the question where the authorities will find it probably most challenging to decide.
Because why I asked the aviation, because the number of competitors in aviation sector are coming down day to day. So the price is increasing, and you have the less service also. So to ensure the consumer welfare, so that whether the sustainability can be taken into the factor, because the sector is maybe suffering because of these issues, can that be a relaxation, or maybe those kind of understandings can be fall outside the purview of competition?
So there is one additional example that I would like to give in terms of collaboration. One that, the Competition Act provides for collaboration and JVs, wherein they are for the benefit of the consumers. So that is already covered within the ambit of the Competition Act. You would see a lot of collaborations happening in the automobile sector. You have Suzuki collaborating with Toyota. Now they have a single manufacturing. Toyota is manufacturing its own vehicles, which are now also sold under Maruti Suzuki's brand, and vice versa. So the collaborations, wherever you are able to establish that it would not create any anti-competitive effect on the market, are welcome from the competition regulator standpoint worldwide. So this is not only the worldwide, that is the phenomenon. Now there is an additional thing. When you look at sustainability as an example, there are few situations wherein in EU, especially in Germany and Austria, wherein certain collaborations were allowed on a transitory basis in 2020-22. This was even prior to EU or UK coming out with the sustainability guidelines in 2023. So what they did there was, like in one of the sectors, which was about the retail sector in 2020-22, they allowed collaboration between two competitors because there was no AEC and it was pro-competitor and also bringing in the sustainability as a factor. In the second situation, there was financing which was to be done in the milk sector. They allowed it initially, but later it was struck down because they realized that this financing is basically resulting into a surcharge and is not beneficial on the basis of sustainability. So when you allow something, it has to be monitored for a certain period, and the discretion always lies with the regulator that whatever you would claim before them, if it is not met, they will strike it down. It has happened in India. So a regulator would always examine each situation on a case-to-case basis, whether it's code sharing or collaborations, on the basis of sustainability or otherwise, and then test the effect on competition. So another term that is largely used for sustainability is appreciable non-adverse effect on competition. So which is pro-competition kind of an effect.
So we have seen that, recently I have seen a case where a steel company called Bhushan Steels. The Bhushan Steel went for insolvency, and it is under for CIR, corporate insolvency resolution process. So there is a player in the market called Tata Steels. Tata Steels looking at Bhushan Steels through insolvency lens so that they can acquire it. They acquired, in fact. Now this is an horizontal merger, but one of the players happens to be under insolvency. So law says that anybody can give a resolution plan to acquire even a person who is in similar business. So I see that is more like a sustainable factor. So what happens in that case when insolvency is successful? That the person who is under insolvency, the life of that corporate also can be saved. But again, this is subjected to competition. So even if you are acquiring a sick company as one of the players in a similar horizontal level, you need to take permission from the CCI. CCI gives a green channel approval to it on the day of making of application, but subjected to that after 1 year of the acquisition by the player who was, like in this case Tata Steel acquired the Bhushan Steels. But there will be again a check on section 19 for irreversible adverse effect on the competition. So I am seeing only situations where the sustainability should also be exempted. In such situations, which is happening around 18 cases. So similar players acquired companies in the insolvency law, but subjected to scrutiny from the competition authorities. So, but those 18 companies were saved. Otherwise, those companies could have been liquidated. So the sustainability can be seen in all these factors. So hopefully, when they make guidelines, that these things they will take into consideration. So with this, I think we are still left with some 8 to 9 minutes. So I'll open the floor if you have any comments to make. Otherwise, I'll open the floor for the questions. Yes.
My name is Shailendra Pandey from GXO Logistics. So I have a question on this competition commission. I had generally observed during watching television that most of the time all the television channels, maybe entertainment, movies or news channels, they similarly display advertisement at the same time. So whether this will consider under Competition Commission of India, because nowhere, so if we consider somehow it is affecting the service to the viewers.
Let me give a bit of a background. So this question has been raised earlier also, and this was the question that was posed before Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. This is different from the Competition Act kind of a situation. So the discussion around this point was that whether these advertisements which are being telecast at the same point in time parallelly across different channels, are they okay or not? The answer to that was that you are now looking at the division of the time slots. Now, I saw Arnab Goswami a couple of days back, and he now said super prime time, which is the new terminology, 10 p.m. super prime time. So the advertisement, the cost for advertisement, the cost for playing of that advertisement varies from the time slots. So if a time slot is a super prime time slot or a super prime time slot, when a company, a production company would be taking advertisements, they would be pricing it accordingly. So it is not a function of them playing together. It is about them knowing that this is the time when the viewers would be watching the TV. and would be watching the
The
advertisement.
surprising thing, if the public TV is showing advertisement at the same time.
I agree with you.
Thank you very much. About Beyond Border, global perspective on mergers and acquisition. I would request the session chairman, Mr. Pavan Kumar Vijay, Chairman, ASSOCHAM Task Force on Corporate Restructuring and M&A, and founder, Corporate Professionals. Welcome, sir. Ms. Medha Srivastava, General Counsel, ASSI. I present a very warm welcome to all of you. Can I please have a huge round of applause? Thank you very much. I would request Mr. Pavan Kumar Vijay to please proceed with the session.
So good morning from all four sides. Friends, so many companies in India, they are having their international operation also. For international operation, they have acquired company, they have opened company. But now, as per Indian law, you have to give the complete detail in your Indian operation, Indian finance. So sometime when you have started a company, but now the business is not there, or it is creating a problem, but it cannot go out. So the best way is either wind up the company there or merge the company. Now, so many times when you are binding up company, that is out of the thought of the promoter and they don't want to kill something. So they were waiting and now it is allowed. So you can merge in India, out of India also. Now only thing is why this is not taking shape. There are so many reasons. Cultural reason, the law of the other country, that is another aspect. Then Indian legal system is also required various things. ODI, FDI, sectoral restriction. So various things are there. So today we want to discuss this issue, and with me I have very interesting and learned panelists with me. I just introduced. I have with Mr. Mukul, Dr. Mukul with me. He is General Counsel of Cube Highway. It's a private equity fund, and so you can understand a fund. People have more knowledge than the person who is working in some specific industry because their horizon is different. So we will understand his point of view. Then we have Minal. She is the founder and managing partner of SLP Law, and because she is interacting with various companies, and interestingly, she is advising companies for the manufacturing sector, but there's a twist. She's advising because now second generation is coming and they don't want to work on a status quo, so they want to do work in a different way with different technology. So she advised companies to go for this type of expansion. So then we have Medha Srivastava. She is a General Counsel of Haship, is a VC fund, South Korea based fund, and they are basically focusing on technological side, where gaming, infrastructure, and blockchain technology, that is also there. So you can just see all three speakers are having their own expertise, own knowledge, and different. So what I am proposing, that what we want to do it, that today's session we are dividing in such a manner that we just want to discuss global trend in M&A. So all three are in different areas, so they will tell. Then what are the challenges in the M&A? They can talk about their own sector and general point also. Then what are the strategic perspective? Now why you want to do this? What if there is a vanilla M&A, there is a strategic M&A, you want to enter into business, you want to kill the competition, various aspects are there that we want to discuss. Then legal and regulatory landscape. And then because all three, this program is on GCs, so I just touch upon the role of GC in this. And the last point is future trend. Because no doubt what we are discussing, it is also future, but we want to go beyond the present future to the further future. So this is the main topic we'll discuss, and to make it more interactive, what I am doing, I am starting with one first topic. All three speakers will talk 2 to 3.
Or there might be an M&A activity done to bring that value creation back to India. So till the time that ecosystem has, understood itself and it can work together how it is supposed to be, I think a bit of a security factor will rule the emerging markets.
Okay, so in your experience, how you see 3D printing versus manufacturing?
So I have not had much experience with 3D printing, but from whatever experience I have had, I think it has not come into a level of manufacturing where we can say it has become a legitimate concern. It is a concern, it's a smaller concern, but it has not become such a big concern that it's openly discussed.
Okay.
Let me just help you out this way. ISRO has started printing 3D printing for its parts. So there's again another disruptive technology which can really change
Yes.
things in many times.
So all the manufacturing companies, professional, you must see, other than technology, 3D printing is also another part of technology which is coming and which is totally disruptive. Okay, Dr. Mukul, tell me what are the key drivers and the challenges which you are facing when you advise or your client is coming to you?
So as we have now seen, the trend is there, and obviously India has a lot of potential. Now coming to the key drivers, and I'll merge that with the legal and regulatory space also, because we have less time, so let's just go those topics together. So the key drivers, India is a market, obviously, as Mr. Vijay rightly said, it is both. We have the talent also and the market also, and in the same country. Therefore, it is a very attractive destination for any market activities, and therefore we attract people to this country. But then now coming to the key challenges first, that what are the challenges? And there I feel there are 2-3 challenges, there are many, but 2 challenges which are per se are in our legal and regulatory frameworks. I'll just give 2-3 examples to showcase that. One is like whenever a non-resident has to invest into India, he has to follow the NDI rules and other FEMA, FDA, ODI rules. Now, there is a twin rule. One rule says that you have to follow the pricing guidelines. So pricing guidelines means that when a non-resident is acquiring an asset in India, the price has to be the market value or the fair market valuation of that particular whatever asset he is purchasing has to be more than that, or at least the fair market value. It also has, the NDA rules also has that if you give any indemnity, then that indemnity cannot be more than 18 months or 25% of the market value. Now you see, if a person is acquiring an asset in India, now this person finds that this asset market value is say 1,000 crores. But he finds that there are 10 issues, 10 litigations are going on, and that litigation collectively can cause a harm of 500 crores. And this person says that, okay, if I suffer litigation and thereby 500 crores I suffer, then you have to make good me this 500 crores. You have to give me an indemnity of that 500 crores whenever that litigation ultimately hurts me. It goes to final authority and ultimately hurts me. And if I go out of pocket, you have to give me 500 crores. Or say 100 crores, let's take a simple number, 10% only. Now 1,000 crores is the deal value, 10% indemnity. Now in India, in 18 months, you cannot complete a case, at least not to the final level. 18 months is a very short duration. Now, after 18 months, if the money comes or the person suffers, this person cannot recover it from the Indian seller because the regulation doesn't permit. Now, in that case, this is an unintended consequence that now this person, if he wants to do this deal, cannot do this deal because this person cannot go beyond 1,000 crores. If the 1,000 crores is the fair market value, cannot reduce the price because then it goes below the pricing guidelines. Therefore, you cannot reduce the price at the first instance. And second, if the person only based on indemnity, if within 18 months indemnity is not due or not chargeable, then he has to just forego that indemnity. So these are small practical challenges which our regulation has created. This is one example of this. Likewise, we are talking about competition law and GC competition law in the previous panel. There also you see small unintended consequences of law. Digital Competition Act says that you have to have a threshold of 4,000 crores of revenue, 30 billion of global revenue, 75 billion of market cap, or 60,000 crore of gross merchandise value, and 1 crore end users or 10,000 business users. If you satisfy this given condition, then you are an SSDE, Systemically Significant Digital Enterprise. And if you are an SSDE, your compliance cost is very heavy, then you are equal to an Amazon or a Facebook, and your compliance cost is that high. Now, the definition of group in digital competition law is linked to the definition of group under Competition Act. Competition Act says that if a foreign investor invests 26% stake, or if anybody invests 26% stake in your company, then that entity and you are in the part of the same group. Now, if a PE fund, a VC fund, which is like $100 billion funds or $1,000 billion funds, if they come and they invest into a fintech startup, then that fintech startup easily covers the first condition, because then
I think it is more than ever important for the government to sit down and formulate proper laws on this. The lack of law is not helping. There is, the industry is continuing to grow. There is investment that is there, and because of the growth, there are more and more consumers and investors that are participating in this industry, but there is no law to protect them at the end of the day. I think one of the most recent examples would be a huge global crypto exchange, Binance, has agreed to comply with the FIU's conditions for past AML compliances, and has recently been approved also to operate in India as a result of this. This only shows that the retail market for crypto users in India is huge, and there is nothing to protect these crypto users should things go wrong, like we saw with the FTX debacle in late 2022. So what is important is to engage with the industry, to understand what the technology is, how it can be regulated, and to draw proper laws for that sector. It is not unheard of. There are jurisdictions globally that are doing it. As a fund, we invest across the board, across the globe. So we know that EU has laws that are going to come in the end of this year. Singapore Payment Services Act has significant regulatory oversight over companies that operate in the Web3 space, and therefore what happens with any any investments in this sector, any even mergers or acquisitions in a company that has grown in this sector, the problem in India would be that either they will be restructuring their group company such that they take the main investment entity outside, so that they receive funds elsewhere, they create value elsewhere, because they're not sure of the legal position in India. So that sort of legal uncertainty is not good for any industry. It's not good for the kind of investments that the country can get. And given the amount of tech potential and tech talent that India has, it is a serious, I would say, brain drain in some sense to let that tech talent go outside of India, because we have, we are not able to form laws, or there's some hesitancy in forming laws. Of course, India being a capital controlled economy, it's not really, it's not a very easy task to form laws to govern any token deals or crypto deals, but it's not something that cannot be done. So what is required is for the government to sit down and put together laws to do this. Now, these kind of regulatory hurdles will obviously create, where you see investors, they come into the market, they'll tell the company, we want to invest, but you need to do this restructuring, take your main entity to Dubai, take it to Singapore, take it elsewhere. Effectively, you have the operating team coming and working in India, but there will be some company elsewhere offshore which is going to create all the value, because we do not have the legal certainty in India. Now that is something that we definitely need to avoid, and that is going to be a key factor to see what role India will play in the market, or what position India has in the market when we are looking at deal flows in terms of number of deals, or in front of the value of deals, and that is something that definitely should be addressed.
Okay. So you have given a very interesting point that not only mentioned the cryptocurrency. So I just ask you, how many people have invested in cryptocurrency? Just raise your hand. It's not how many people? So slowly they are raising. I have okay. So now your turn.
Just to actually continue on Megha's point, we actually were advising a company, and just to continue a bit on that, and to see how I see this as a problem as a whole. because I particularly believe that if there is no protection to the asset provided, the asset cannot be realized, and deal value has to be protected for deal value to be realized. And we recently did do a transaction where there was a company based out of India with very good founders. Investors were also Indians, but the company and the deal was done in Dubai. It's still working out of India, and I completely agree it's brain drain, but the sort of a sad but a bit of a draining factor on India also, I believe, is the fact that there is not just brain drain, now there's an asset drain. Value is created in India, assets are created in India, but they're given legitimacy in another jurisdiction. And if this problem continues, then the value that is created in the country, will not be realized. And M&A value, if it is created in another jurisdiction, it also brings problems of two jurisdictional laws crossing each other. Tax implication takes away value. So if we are restructuring the company at the end of the day, because a different jurisdiction allows a particular law, where the business and the industry can flourish, what happens if tomorrow that restructuring actually leads to tax loss, or it leads to a loss that the company had not envisioned? These are problems that are coming up. If India is to continue as a back office, then I think the current structure can well continue. But if India does, that obviously is something that the governments will decide, considering so many funds are focused in India, the clear direction seems to be that the value asset creation has to be in India. But I think that is something where the laws are lacking, and it is something that will take time to happen. But as of today, it is a 50-50 deal where the laws are secure, assets are created and retained in India, M&A activity does happen, and that is where people actually are able to realize the value of the M&A activity. But if the assets are distributed along different jurisdictions, and that is done simply because there is a requirement because of the law and not coming from the board of directors or from the management, what that leads to is more complications going in future, because these are decisions that are made basis the laws that are more favorable, but not on ideas or platforms where business decisions can be executed.
Okay, so quickly I just
Again, I think we are looking at the trends in industries that I mentioned previously. I think there's a lot of opportunity in investing in these industries, whether it be AI, Web3 or green tech. I think because these will be the primary drivers for M&A going forward. And I believe that this is the kind of, these are the industries that will bring about maximum opportunity for M&A.
Okay. So industries I already spoken earlier. What I see the trend is in coming time is the mid deal size value from $100 million to $1 billion. Because people will be more skeptic investing in bigger deals. So we'll see at least in the next 1.5 years more this mid ticket size deals. Sectors maybe like energy, tech, like AI based things, automobiles, EV. So they can be sector all financial services. I feel is a very bullish sector, fintech. But the deal size will be between $100 million to $1 billion. That is the big ticket size which is going to take it upward.
I would like to keep it limited to 3 points. Number one, I would mention Certain. We will hear a lot more from them. That is the Computer Emergency Response Team of India. And I'm sure a lot of GCs have been made familiar. The second, I would say, is the difference between personal data, confidential data, and sensitive personal information. They're all overlapping. So how they will be defined, separated, segregated is very important. Thirdly, there's a recent M&A activity that happened in US, that is the case of DataBank versus Zcolo. It was an acquisition of a 5G data center and how it adds value to a lot of data centers and the services that the industry can provide. And I think it is one M&A transaction that will define a lot that will happen in not just the traditional markets but also emerging markets. Thank you.